I'm ecstatic hearing this as Jim Rutherford spoke in a recent interview revealing key details on the Vancouver Canucks as they head into a crucial season. But not only that, we get perfect reports coming out around the Vancouver Canucks and Patrik Allvin revealing exactly what the club is looking for to fill the void on their forward group and how they will not settle for any less. We're going to break down that and these quotes from Jim Rutherford that's going to have Canucks fans absolutely ecstatic and more in this episode. You're not going to want to miss it. So let's just dive straight into it today. And before we get into these quotes from Jim Rutherford coming in from yesterday, we're going to dive into a couple of reports coming from Thomas Drance. And listen, this will all be linked down below. Go check out all his work. But he goes in to say the Canucks intend to aim for a higher caliber addition than what's presently available in free agency. Now, we've seen for a couple of months, it seems like Jack Roslovic was a piece that the Vancouver Canucks were interested in as him and his camp were looking through the open market. The center is still not signed, but it seems like Patrik Allvin and Jim Rutherford are looking at the second line center position and saying, hey, we aren't settling for any less than a second line center. We want a bona fide guy that has proven to be a second line center, which is exactly what the Canucks do need. Now we're going to dive into the Nils Höglander injury and who looks up next to replace him. But the big thing with this team is making moving pieces to move down a top six player to the middle six is exactly what this management group wants to do as they make a more competitive roster and also get a lot harder and better down the middle with this Vancouver Canucks team. But the big thing is we get even more coming from Thomas Drance, and he goes in to say, Vancouver's priority at this point is to try to identify and acquire a legitimate, impactful middle six center. The sort of player capable of either pushing Filip Chytil down the lineup to play on the third line or giving the third line a significant boost above what they reasonably expect from one of Teddy Blueger, Aatu this season. Now, the big thing is, if you're going out to get a bona fide center, yes, you're going to have to move out some moving pieces. The cap is a situation that every team deals with, so the Canucks will have to make room. But the big thing is, if you're going out to make a trade, if you wanted to trade for a second line center, move Filip Chytil down to that third line center position or wing. This makes the team so much deeper. Filip Chytil has looked outstanding. We've seen the incredible pass to Jonathan Lekkerimäki to put the game within one during the Oilers preseason. Listen, we hate the Oilers. Let's not talk on them. But he has impressed quite a bit during this preseason run. A lot of players have. Jonathan Lekkerimäki has, and Braden Coots. Now, the big thing with the Canucks filling out that void, it's going to cost assets, but the biggest thing is we're starting to see a lot of bodies be cut from camp. We've seen a couple yesterday with guys being put on waivers. Jiri Lehtera cleared, which is awesome. The Canucks get a deeper goaltending situation. But as we get closer to the camp, it seems like the Canucks are not going to make a trade until game one at least. We know what they have. They're trying to work things out. We have a couple quotes from the assistant coach as well, but with the Canucks, we're slowly getting closer to what this team is going to look like on game one. We see a lot of guys like Coots and Lekkerimäki really trying to prove themselves. So we know the top line, DeBrusk, Petey, and Boeser is going to stick together. But with this group slowly getting smaller and smaller, with guys like Ratu, Karlsson, even someone like Jonathan Lekkerimäki and Coots fighting for the spot, I think management is finally going to figure out, okay, this is what we have going into game one. This is what we need to improve on, and this is how we value the franchise. Now, getting into that, I did talk on this a tiny bit yesterday, but on October 6th, we're going to see every team has to have their deadline for their opening night roster put into the league. So we're going to see a lot of roster cuts coming from between now and the 6th as the Canucks work towards it. But the biggest thing is Jim Rutherford has made it very clear that they want to be a playoff team. Going into the quote from Jim Rutherford, I feel like that we're a very competitive team. I like what the coach has done, what Adam Foote has done to prepare this team, the system he's put in place. He's simplified our system for our players. They bought into it. We have strong goaltending. We have a strong defense. We have forwards that are capable of having a good year. So I really don't know. I feel strong that we have a good enough team to compete for a playoff spot. Now, going back into this team, we know there's a lot of guys that have not been cut. Coots is looking like a bat out of hell that wants to make the opening night roster. We've seen him play in two preseason games, scoring back-to-back, and most likely we'll get into a couple more unless he is sent down beforehand. But the big thing with Coots, if you're putting him as soon as I can find the lineup, it's here somewhere. If Coots does come in as that third line winger, it would make the most sense to not one, throw a rookie into a center position, as he's going to have to continue getting better at this, but it's also a line where Conor Garland and Teddy Blueger are veterans around the NHL. They can take them under the wing. We know how good this line would have been with Niels Höglander, which is out for 6 to 8 weeks or 8 to 10 weeks. Check that video out I did yesterday. But this Canucks team has the opportunity to test out a few pieces, see how close a lot of these players are. We know how good Baines can be. We've seen Linus Karlsson have his stints, but with this management group going out with Jim Rutherford, who sometimes says too much, but listen, it's awesome. 40 minutes of Jim Rutherford is feeding families, and the big thing is Jim Rutherford knows this is a season where a lot is on the line. We know last year they missed the playoffs, and we know the feud that went between some star players, but the big thing with this Canucks roster, and what a lot of people kind of look and stray away from, is the fact that this is a very good team that dealt with a lot of injuries. Now, I see in the comments already that Höglander's already out and we're running it back, but the big thing is a healthy Canucks team is a very competitive team, and I think a lot better than most fans are fully giving them credit for or expecting. We've seen last year quite a few players missing time. Petey was playing injured, only playing 64 games. We've seen Brock Boeser playing 75, Quinn Hughes 68, Thatcher Demko was out for time. But this team is not only getting better than what we've seen at the end of last season, who was still a very competitive team despite the injuries, but this team is getting better, younger, and more competitive as this camp pushes farther along. Now we go into another quote from Jim Rutherford, and he goes in to say, even though we like our center ice position, if we could add another center to give us more depth there, that would be much more comfortable about our team. Now the big thing that I like about this management group is they're not just sitting there, sitting on their hands and not actively going out to look for a trade, or at least addressing what they need to go out and add to this roster to be even more competitive. We know how good the defensive core of this team looks. We have young guys fighting through in Tom Villander and Victor Mancini. You also have one of the, if not the best goaltending duos in the NHL. This team is one piece away from making actual noise. I still think they'll make noise and go out to make a playoff push and maybe a deep run, but they are one piece away from having a legitimate contending team. And listen, call me crazy, I'm sure people are going to do it in the comments anyways, but the big thing is they have cap space, 3.1. Niels Höglander is out for some time, a couple of moves, and this team is in the perfect situation to go out, be active, go out and win a Stanley Cup. Once again, call me crazy or too optimistic, but this is a team that is truly on the verge of doing something special. It's just everything has to fall into place from no injuries. A lot of players bouncing back, which seems like a lot, but it's really not when you compare against a lot of teams in the NHL. But Canucks fans, what is your thoughts on this? What is your thoughts on Patrik Allvin going, or reports coming on Patrik Allvin saying they're going to go out, they want to find a center, they want to go out and at least find someone better than a free agent? What is your thoughts on Jim's comments? All the comments around the Canucks, let us know down in the comments. And speaking of comments, a lot of comments being thrown around. We got comment of the day coming from Kenneth, and he says, I still believe at Ratu will at least have a good season. Remember, these guys are young players. I think Ratu and Coots would be two good centers for the Canucks, and I think both guys are going to crack the opening night roster. And this is exactly what I mean. The Canucks have a lot of guys that are on the crisp of making it into the roster, which is perfect, because if you move out from a roster player to bring in a center, then you still have someone ready to jump straight into this lineup, make an impact. You can clear room. Drew O'Connor, 2.5, you could move on from. I love Drew. $2 million to Teddy Bluger. Also a contract the teams are going to actively look at. This team is ready to do something. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Call me crazy. Do you think I'm onto something here? Let me know it down in the comments. And with that, that'll be it for this episode. So make sure to leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends. I'm in an absolute blender here today, so I'm going to end it right here. But take care, Canucks fans.